up really fast, because look how much money I have. 2 queens and 2 spine crawlers. I had no idea that you could actually afford that. Both of them being able to cover the ramp, I think that's obviously a significant factor. And man, I'm just rubbing my arm a little bit because good old carpal tunnel's been hitting me pretty hard as of late. And of course, with all the hours I spend casting, doesn't end up feeling too great. Oh yes, there we go. There's the timing that Zelniq had. Build the extractor and build the roach horn at the same time. And of course begin powering drones like crazy. Good amount of Zerglings out, and I would honestly say put these Zerglings back here. Put the Zerglings behind the spine crawlers. The queens are blocking the ramp. Be careful of leaving too many Zerglings up here. I would be willing to leave maybe 4 or so back here. I perhaps wouldn't want to leave all of them there, because one Baneling could run up and kill it. I do want to state that for the record, I am recording all of the recent dailies in HD, so the audio's getting off-sync in those, so I have to fix those problems over the weekend. And if my computer just suddenly crashes, like if it just disappears, my computer's been just cold rebooting lately, so hopefully it doesn't do that during the daily. But either way, a lot of drones being made. Not much gas collected yet. Looks like just some roaches are going to be constructed, but not too many. This is a big advantage to Dimaga's build. You get that gas out ultra mega fast, so you will obviously be able to do a ton of harassment, pick off any Zerglings that try to poke out. And Zelniq, I mean, really at this point, he's pretty much in the dark with the exception of these overlords that are spread out here. He has to stay out of range of the queen, but other than that, he's pretty free to roam around. So we have some more Zergling aggression going on. I probably would have preferred to throw down a roach or 2 or 3 or 4 by this point, so that way I could protect this. I could have these queens returning back home to do the vomitage. And I am curious when Zelniq is going to be beginning his next several queens. I really am excited for all you guys to see the chance of how amazing all these queens is. So, I mean, obviously spreading out of all these creep tumors. And look at that, the nice block with the roaches. And yeah, look, now you're secured at your ramp. The roaches are going to poke out, do a little bit. And really getting roaches out at this time. Come on, computer, hang in there. Whew, there we go. Roaches around this time are great at delaying an expansion. Because really, what else is Zerg going to do? Look at the timing on these roaches. How close is the spire from being done? Well, it just about finished. So these roaches can poke in there at least a little bit. They will have to retreat, but you could suicide up here and kill off this hatchery. It looks like that is exactly what Zelniq's going to do. And here are several queens coming out. Notice the timing of these queens. They're going to pop out right around the time that all of these mutalisks are popping out. Some pretty cool battling going on. Notice that the Zerglings are evaporating pretty fast. It's just these mutalisks and the overwhelming numbers that Dimaga has that are really pulling through in the end. And Zelniq actually maintaining a little bit of a lead here. I mean, if we can go to the unit counting station, we do see that Zelniq is pulling ahead in the drones, because you do feel obligated to make more stuff. And it looks like that little early pressure by Zelniq, they decided wasn't the best thing in the world. But either way, 2 queens out at this point in time. I'm going to skip to the replay that is the last one in this set. Because that really, a lot of the stuff comes together. But, I mean, note that if these roaches had moved out perhaps a little bit earlier on, that they would have been able to put pressure on the hatch, delay them from ever popping out. I don't think it was necessary for Zelniq to leave, but, you know, in practice games, that's generally how things end up going. But let us open up the third game. I'm tempted to open up this 206. Yeah, let's open up 206. Let's just do 2 more games as well. Again, this is going to be a little bit shorter of a daily, and hopefully in one of the future dailies I'll begin to do a Queens Part 2, so that way we can do this entire build style in Zerg vs. Zerg justice. But again, very fancy swab play. Haven't gotten the chance to see it in the later stages of the game. Whenever I do part 2 of this, I likely will be showing the game I played against Zelniq, where it got to the super late stages of the game. Because though there were a little bit of errors that happened at the start, you know, Zelniq accidentally lost 4 of his queens. They got picked off by my mutalisks. They still ended up being super threatening to deal with. So this drone just pops in there, sees what it needs to, and returns home. And this already is a nice touch to this build. You always hear me talk about the little things, and this is an example of that. Scouting specifically to look for one thing and then returning right home. Too often players just scout in autopilot style. They just want to see what's up in their opponent's base. Purely for, you know, fear management reasons. They're just, oh god, I just want to know what he's doing. I'm scared. I'm frightened. And really they should just calmly do the build that they know and really ask themselves, do I need to scout what my opponent's doing? So, identical playing going on from Dimaga. We do have Zelniq adding on his double queens, and here are the Zerglings coming out. Here again, the 2 spine crawlers. One thing we're not seeing that was pointed out to me, and you can even test this and see that it's true. By getting these 2 spine crawlers and blocking the ramp with the 2 queens, you have just enough time to deal with a fast Baneling bust. We're getting real close to the time when those Banelings would be out. So that's why Zelniq is sprinting with this queen to get directly to the ramp and sprinting to get these 2 spine crawlers up. So here's the gas plus Roach Warren combination. And one thing that you need to begin doing very, very quickly with these queens is to begin spreading creep tumors across the center of the map, because you do need that mobility. And though this sort of thing does suck a little bit, you need to be careful. I love that Zelniq isn't falling for it, that he's not pulling these queens off. Because imagine for a moment, imagine if the queen moved over here to pick these Zerglings off, and then suddenly Dimaga runs up the ramp with a bunch of Zerglings and Banelings. Obviously not something that you want to deal with if you're in Zelniq's position. That's pretty much an instant lose. So just being able to adequately cope with the sort of variety that can be thrown at him. So here are the Roaches coming out right on time. The Roach is now advancing forward. How soon until that Spire's done? Well, it looks like about now. So I might be willing to do a little bit of pushing with these Zerglings and Roaches. Perhaps go about cross-map before I pull back. I think that would be a reasonable choice. And hey, look, Zelniq might be doing some sort of pushing. Perhaps not as aggressively, because in the last game he did see that early Roach push didn't quite pan out. But here comes the second round of Queens in just a moment. I know it's going to happen. I mean, partly because Zelniq told me this is when it happens, but still, I feel like it's going to happen. So see, look at this timing. The Spire just finished, the Mutalisks have just started, and here's the timing. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, look at that. Completely demolishing the Expo, forces the cancel. Might even try to head up the ramp. Yeah, looks like he is going to be going into that. Whoopsie daisies, accidentally rewound the replay. But I want you to note, well, it's suddenly bright in my room. Okay, I want you to note how thin that difference was. That in the first game, Zelniq moved out and lost all his stuff. And, I mean, if that was like a tournament game, people would be like, Zelniq, oh my god, he just lost so fast to Dimaga. He didn't even have a clue, and people would, all this misery. But then all of a sudden, just by adjusting it a teensy tiny bit, oh my god, he's killed off an expansion. Oh my god, he might kill Dimaga now. Oh, Zelniq is brilliant. And that's really the thing that you need to note, is that it's extremely subtle, the timing difference between a wild success and perhaps a gigantic failure. And that's why it's so important to get a sense of these relative timings of, like when the Spire is going to be finishing in your opponent's base. And Zelniq, able to get in here. And it looks a little bit like a mistake on Dimaga's part. Fortunately, we have a very good replay coming up after this. But, I mean, look at how fragile this looks. Wow, I mean, suddenly it looks as though Zelniq's opening, just a standard Roach timing push, is way strong against Dimaga's opening. But either way, Zelniq making tons and tons and tons of queens. And a lot of people, let's just look at this situation. A lot of people would look at this and go, well, this is dumb. Dimaga just lost to a whole bunch of Roaches. And this is supposed to be a daily about Mass Queen. But the thing is, and by the way, there's actually 2 queens. You can't quite see the other one. It looks like it's hiding underneath the Overlord. But the thing is, by opening queens, by focusing on queens, and my god, my computer's falling apart. Hopefully it stays strong. But anyways, the fact that Zelniq is planning on getting queens and has this queen-centric follow-up allows him to make some Roaches and suicide them in here. It is not a Roach timing that was the key here. It was the Roach timing with the queens to back it up that makes it really, 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 really good. It's that interaction that I think is central to this little opening that we're seeing on Steps of War. Again, always be aware of what the fallback plan is, because too often it's easy to take it at face value. Just be like, all right, well, there's some Roaches attacking. Guess I should attack with some Roaches. No, queens. I mean, if it weren't... what other anti-air is Zelniq really going to have? Is he going to go mass evolution chamber? Well, he really does need some queens to be able to adequately deal with this. And look, another queen coming out. Ooh, fancy. So, okay, now Damaga's feeling a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, I mean, Zelniq lost a decent amount of roaches, so the food differential is not extraordinary at this point. And here comes some Mutalisks. Oh my god, and they're dashing up. Here comes the target fire. And Queens have range 7. Never forget, they do 9 damage and have range 7, and they have a ton of hit points. That is really, really tough to deal with. And here come more Mutalisks in here. Are there more queens popping out? Yep, there's a third queen. Is there a third queen here? Yeah, there's the third queen. I would probably like to see a few more drones earlier on in this style. We can clearly see that, wow, Zelniq easily dealing with these Mutalisks. We already have the creep tumor down. I would probably be a little more active about spreading the creep tumors, because hell, the worst that can